What are you doing, Niall?
Playing dolls in the water.
Playing dolls in the water?
Yes. Why would that mean? Wait, why did you fail me? Why did you fail?
Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Nope. Hey, calm down. It is Sunday, and we just got home about 30 minutes ago. We are checking on animals and filling up waters and just collecting eggs, doing all of the things. And I wanted to bring you guys to the garden with me and show you the progress that we've made. The last time I was in the garden, I did not film, but we got a good bit done, and I wanted to show you. So I know I shared on Instagram, I don't know if I shared on YouTube yet, but the garden did freeze. Mostly the whole garden that was tossed, frost tender did freeze. We do still have some basil here, that's towards the bottom, that is alive here, and towards the front there. And then we have 2 tomatoes that survived. But for the most part, everything that was frost tender did freeze. It was 2 nights in a row that it got down to 36, I believe 35 and 36, but they said the real freeze felt like 32, and that was for like 8 hours at a time. But before that, that day and the day before, we came out here and we did end up laying down this plastic. So we have, these are the 10 by 25 plastic that you can get from like Walmart, and I laid it down over these 3 log raised beds, and it's even going over this first raised bed right here. So as you can see, those are the 3 log raised beds, and we did weed all of them. Right there where there's a puff, there was still a plant that was the echinacea growing back, but we went ahead and just covered the bed completely because that will still come back when I take the plastic off. But right now we're trying to get all of these beds completely weeded. So there's the 3 log raised beds, and then this bed that we connected towards the front. And then right over here, we did weed this log raised bed, but we haven't covered it yet, which I'm going to plan on doing today. But as you can see, our wood right here completely is right there broken down, shredded. This was soft wood, and I knew it was going to break down, and this is about 2 years sitting here, and it's broken down here. But the important part is the bed is weeded, and so even though this coming spring we're going to have to replace it with actual wood-sided raised beds, just so I don't lose the soil and it washes away. I'm happy that it's at least weeded, and we have to cover it. And then we did weed this bed. We haven't covered it yet, but we just threw the cardboard back, extra cardboard over here. And then we did get this last log raised bed weeded as well, and the same thing. These were the last 2 beds that I built, and the logs were much smaller than they were in the other beds. So you can see this along this whole side right here. We did end up Aiden laid down landscape fabric for me. I watched a video where I can't even remember who it was from, but they had really bad like crabgrass, and they covered their garden beds for, I think it was like a year. And then that next time by the time they uncovered it and gardened in it, the places where they had covered it had significantly less crabgrass. I don't even know if they said it was like 90% less crabgrass than the place where they did not cover. And so that is my hope with putting down this landscape or this plastic, is to kill all of, there's the kitten next to me, to kill all of the grass that's underneath and the weeds that's underneath here. And then as I'm ready to plant, uncover just like 1 bed at a time, plant it, and or even lay down landscape fabric on top of these beds, because I am completely done with weeds. I can handle the smaller beds, but like these log raised beds got like way more weedy, just because this is the front of my garden, and when we bought this property, it was mostly wooded like here across the street, but in the front is where, right here is where it had a lot of the trees, the big trees. These were up at the front, were big pine trees, and then towards that way it had, towards like the back of my garden is where it had like just like flat grass. And so I don't know if that has something to do with it, but the front of my garden where the trees were is trying to grow more trees and just so much more weeds than the back part going towards the back part of my garden. And I have no idea if that's because, you know, this was more wooded and more trees, and so it just had more undergrowth than the other parts. But dealing with the weeds in these log raised beds has been a mess, and so I'm definitely thinking about when I uncover them, just laying down landscape fabric over them and just garden in landscape fabric, and making these be my flower production. So like one whole bed would be zinnias, and I would, you know, put down the landscape fabric, poke holes. I actually already ordered the landscape fabric with holes in them, because that is how much I do not want to weed these beds again. And so I'm planning on covering them, laying down compost, after, when it's time to plant, laying down compost, adding the landscape fabric on top, and then planting. And then each time I need to lay down some more compost or feed the soil, I'll just take off the landscape fabric, add the compost or whatever I need to add, and then put the landscape fabric back on it, so that I can save myself from weeding this large of an area. The garden is just definitely too big for me to weed, and each summer, both summers that I've gardened in here, has become overwhelming. I think this past summer was the worst as far as weeds, and I couldn't handle it anymore. This cat is distracting me, and I couldn't handle it anymore, and so I'm doing something about it. We also had certain areas that we didn't finish laying down landscape fabric, like along this fence and along this pathway right here. So this is a fresh piece of landscape fabric, and then towards the front right there, and then all that along this bed right here did not have landscape fabric, but we weeded it and added the landscape fabric now, as well as in between each of these beds did not have landscape fabric. And you can see where my son stopped and see how the weeds have grown between. A couple things that I was thinking about with these beds right here is, because some of them don't have sides anymore, any fronts, is I was thinking about just taking off this side right here and just making it one long bed along the fence. And I still may do that now that we have the landscape fabric down, just connecting it closed and putting a back on it, and then garden that way. I'm still just processing it, just now that I've been here 2 years and gardened in this for 2 years, just trying to fix the things that I did not like, or the things that didn't work for me. Another thing is I laid down landscape fabric here, but then these are blueberry trees that are planted here, and then I didn't lay any landscape fabric along the back of the fence because I had planted a bunch of daffodils here, and that was a mistake, because as you can see, it's completely weeded, and so I'm going to again get it down as close as possible to the ground, and then we're just going to cover this with landscape fabric, and even cover around the blueberry plants with landscape fabric. And then we might do a garden bed on top of the landscape fabric behind the blueberries, but definitely covering this as well. Like you can see, like that weed right there is like, this fence is what, 4 foot high. That's probably about 5 feet. It's probably the same height as me. When I was looking up how to manage the weeds, there were 2 different methods of putting down either black plastic or clear plastic, kind of like my greenhouse plastic or my hoop house plastic. And then with the clear plastic, it would allow the soil to heat up and keep a hold in like moisture, and so it would allow for all the weeds to germinate, and then it would kill them and smother them. It's faster process, whereas the black plastic, it's dark, and so it just keeps anything from germinating, and it doesn't let moisture in, and it takes, the black plastic, they said, takes longer, which I'm not planning on planting in these until at least probably April. So it doesn't matter for me because we're in November, December, January, February, March, April, so a good 5 months that this plastic, I plan on having this plastic laid down, because I don't plan on planting anytime before that. But I haven't figured it out yet, but like I do know I want to have flower production here, so we might have like, you know, one whole bed of you know, sunflower, like cut sunflowers, and then one whole bed of like zinnias, and then just like uncovering each bed one at a time until they're all planted. And then, like I said, also having the landscape fabric down for them with the pre-drilled holes, I think is going, or pre-holes that I can just plant, is going to be a lifesaver for me. And I just want to be able to plan better, because, you know, you guys all heard the saying, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's kind of what I've never had this big of a garden before, and I've never had to be like a real big planner as far as when I'm gonna plan to weed and stuff. But I've come to the realization that I need to plan days of when I'm going to like have garden maintenance, and when I'm going to have time to, like, if it's just like a set day every week that I know that I'm gonna weed this, like the log raised beds, and then on a different day I'm gonna read, you know, the left side of the garden, and on the other day I'm gonna read the right side of the garden, and they just keep rotating like that. And I haven't figured that all out yet, but I've been processing that now since we've been in winter and downtime, and I'm like super pumped with all of the cool weather. It's really nice to work in instead of trying to think through this when it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees outside. I've even ordered seeds from My Gardener, and I'm so excited for them to come, because if you followed me this past season, all of my pepper seeds completely got wet, and a few of you guys did send me some seeds, and I think you guys still have those, but I had so many varieties of pepper seeds that I just wanted to replace them, and so I did put in an order already for my Gardener seeds, and I'm really excited about that, to really start honing in on varieties that I like, and that was really productive for me. As I was about to cover that bed, I saw these hanging out. This is garlic. I planted garlic in that bed last year, and I showed you guys in my in-ground bed, there's also garlic popping up all over the place as well, and you can see this garlic is popping up, and there's another place. I'm gonna take these and try and replant them somewhere else, and if they die, they die, because they were gonna die anyway. But there's another spot that I'm going to do that to as well. So I just went ahead and laid a cattle panel on top of that bed, and it fit exactly perfectly. I was thinking about I did put the plastic all the way up to the fence to kill those weeds as well, but the landscape fabric I ordered should be here soon, and I'm gonna have to move it anyway. And so I just laid the cattle panel over the log raised bed exactly, and that should be fine. I'm laughing at my Great Pyrenees chasing a car. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing to the other side. Yay! So we did get that last bed covered. So all of the beds that we weeded are now covered. I said that, and then I look over and I forgot that we didn't cover that first bed right before this 2 asparagus beds. But we can't cover that one because that one's gonna take up 2 pieces of plastic, which I do have, but we can't cover that until we dig out the asparagus. And I'm not going to do that today because I'm already had a long day. So probably maybe tomorrow. I didn't look at the weather for tomorrow, so depending on how the weather of tomorrow, we can dig those up. If not, another day, and then have to lay down those why do I keep calling landscape fabric? Just the regular black plastic. And I'm so excited to see how it does for all the way until next April. Like by keeping it covered and see if it like breaks down or what's the experience. So you guys will see with me if this plastic lasts until 5 more months from now with the rain and the sun and freezes and all types of weather, and see how it does. Something about making a new garden space like clear again and resetting it is so exciting to me. It just reminds me of what, you know, is to come, and I'm really excited that there's at least 3, 4, 5, 6 beds covered and ready for spring without adding the new compost, but it'll be ready for spring. And we have the plastic down, so no more weeds. It's just, I'm so excited, and it feels so nice outside. The sun's setting. It's almost, I guess it's almost 6:30 since the sun is already setting, and I got to be out here with you guys and show you all of the updates. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. That's where I post like I've been posting like reels on like the day-to-day stuff. So if you're my garden videos or my videos in general have been probably like a week ahead, just because I was planning a trip to Israel, and I was trying to have enough content for when I was away on my trip. But now I'm not going to Israel because everything that's happening in the world. So I'm a week ahead in my videos. So if you're watching this, I'm probably a few days ahead of you guys. But man, our chickens have been breaking free. This is totally off topic. Our chickens have been breaking free, and Niall's walking over here, it looks like, with a bunch of eggs in her hand. How many eggs is that? Yeah, 4 eggs. Where was it, Niall? Over there? Let me see. Yep, that's where they've been hiding their eggs.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're also brown.
Yep, that same chicken. So what we've been doing is, when our chickens are, some of them are still young to fit through our netting and it's not electrified, well, today what we started doing is all the chickens that can fit through the net and have been roaming free, and we haven't been getting eggs, I just put them inside of the coop with the white chickens that I had hoped to keep separate for breeding purposes. But they're all hens, and there's only one rooster in there, and so I don't mind. Those are the, what are they called? The meat chickens, the American breasts. And I was trying to keep them separated so I could have true American breast meat chickens next year so that I could breed them. But I can't have those chickens running free because, can somebody go open the door for now? I can't have those chickens running free because they get free, and then if we have like other dogs out here that are not friendly towards chickens, they can easily just go chase them and get them if we're not looking. And so we've put them up. Let me go show you before I sign off here. So those 3 chickens that are back, let's see, those 3 chickens that are back there together, they're from the same flock, and that's why they're standing in the corner. And these are the American breasts, and they're all familiar with each other, and so they know that there's new chickens in with them. That's our rooster, and we have 3 hens, and those 3 hens that keep escaping because they're tiny, we put them in here because this area they can't escape because it's a door on it. There's nothing that they can fit through, and we knew that we were missing eggs, but we couldn't find them because we live on 2.5 acres. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.